Hey, yo, what is up, my gaming brethren? It is your boy, Degenerate J. Hey, holla back. Now that my videos don't get enough views, I've decided to switch demographics and be hip and cool with the teenage crowd. You know what I'm saying? Dab on those haters. Anyone see that Logan Paul fight? Well, anyways, I think I might have blacked out there for a second. I just felt this incredibly disgusting feeling wash over me. But today I wanted to talk about Static Shock. Static Shock, probably not the place to go for if you're looking for views, but it is something that I've been thinking about for a while because we've seen a lot of really forced products being kind of brought up in recent years. Things like the upcoming Superman movie by Ta-Nehisi Coates, which I have yet to see more than a dozen people who actually are interested in it. We have seen a lot of weird decisions in part with video games and also with movies and television when it comes to DC projects. Not bad, just odd. You know, when there's characters sitting right there that are very, very usable. Static is one of those. Now, important to note also, his name is Static. It's not Static Shock, but Static Shock is what he's most known for in terms of the name of comics and also a hit television series, which is fantastic and underrated, and I recommend you check it out. It's actually on HBO Max, I believe, as well now, as well as on DVD. Static is a very underrated superhero. He made several appearances in the DC animated universe back, which was helmed by Bruce Timm and Paul Dini, and he is fantastic. He is essentially a superhero who's a teenager in high school. Now, you might think, well, that's a played out concept. I've seen that a lot. Static actually tackled a lot of interesting issues and I guess different areas of Dakota where he was from, which were different for the time when it came to superhero cartoons and also superhero comics. Static Shock was definitely about a lot of things, and I would say that the superhero genre was used more as a backdrop for what was going on in Virgil Hawkins' life. Virgil Hawkins is Static. He was a young African-American superhero. Now, he was black, and he was in a school which was in not the best neighborhood, not the best area, and there was a wide array of cast and characters around him in the show, also in the comics, but personally I prefer the show to most of the comics. Sadly, over the years, DC has, in my opinion, squandered this character. He did show up a few times throughout things like Justice League Unlimited in future segments. However, something that was a no-brainer like making a limited series with him never happened. We never got to see older Virgil doing really anything except a couple guest appearances. And we really never saw much in terms of video games. There was, I guess, a little bit here and there with this character, but mostly it kind of seems like they forget he exists. It's interesting because there already is a Static Shock game. Just straight up a very, very good Static Shock game. I would argue 2 of them. But they're not about Virgil Hawkins, they're not Static Shock, and they're not in a DC universe. Let me explain. Infamous 1 and 2 focus heavily on a character, Cole MacGrath, who uses electric superpowers to get around the city, the same type of powers that Static Shock uses. In fact, some of the ways he traverses around the city in Infamous 1 and 2 are very, very similar to Static's methods of traversal as well. Static starts out, and we're going by show canon here, he's riding around on garbage can lids, actually. That's what he uses as essentially a hoverboard. Later on, with his best friend Richie, also known as Gear, creating a more advanced hoverboard for him to use, using like magnetic energy, electric energy to fly around. We actually see Cole MacGrath do something similar, but without a vehicle for doing so. Like, he can move trains and things like that he stands on, right? But he also is able to just hover around short distances using electric powers and things like that. You could very easily go off of that with traversal in a Static Shock game. But, you know, this is something that I could see in a perfect world, my perfect world, which will one day be a thing, and you will be forced to watch me when I'm Emperor of the Universe. I would say that this could very easily be a game series. I've always advocated for a shared DC video games universe. For some reason, we've never gotten it. I guess the closest we'll get is Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League randomly being thrown into the Arkham timeline, but that's neither here nor there. You could very easily start out with Static at the beginning sort of his high school career. Very easily starting with him, just learning how his powers work, sort of starting out Cole MacGrath-ish with having no idea what's going on in his life and also with his powers and coming to terms with those over the course of the game. It's interesting because there's so much to work with too in terms of just the animated series alone. Issues that come up like gun violence. Static actually had his origins steeped in gang violence. He got roped up, I don't know what you'd say, in a gang turf war type thing going on in very early episode of the show, and ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time. He just happened to be one of the only people at the accident who didn't become a super villain. So there is a lot you could do with those murky character origins for Static to grow him through a character arc very well over the course of a couple of games. And you think about it, if you start this is a problem a lot of video games actually have with series, is they will start, right? And by the end of the game, it's a self-contained experience. And then the second game, you essentially have to throw out everything you knew before. You start the character over at level 0, generally. Very few games are very good at importing characters from previous games. Static could be a little different. I think you could very easily keep baseline powers throughout all 3 of them while developing new and useful powers for Static to use in later games. Maybe he's flying around on trash cans in the first game. Maybe the second game is where you introduce someone like Gear, where you're able to change his traversal system to something more advanced. This is something that would be an easy evolution throughout an entire series. And it also would fill a niche that people have been asking for a long time, which is fans of Cole MacGrath and Infamous. This would introduce a bunch of fans of the PlayStation 3 classics to Static as a character, because let's be honest, every time he gets new comic books, they seem to be unceremoniously canned by DC because they just don't make enough money, or they don't, get enough copies out there off the newsstand, stuff like that. But I do think that this would be an interesting way to sort of capitalize on that market. I'm not saying you rip off Infamous, but I am saying that there has been a group of fans, of PlayStation fans especially, who have been dying for a new Infamous Electricity game for years. People loved Cole MacGrath as a character, but also just in the way that he played, the way the games played for Infamous 1 and 2. And being able to sort of use that as a bit of an inspiration or a model for a Static Shock game, at least for me, would be an instant sell. This is also a very good way to show other parts of the DC universe. Dakota is interesting and different in that it is sort of Gotham City-ish in the sense of, there's a lot of crime problems and stuff like that, but there's also a lot more good there. You can see a lot of different walks of life and, groups of people, sort of like, maybe something like Miles Morales showed us, where you have a very interesting cast and crew of characters able to rally behind this main character and give it some personality and life beyond just what it is on paper. I also do believe that the superhero genre is in real need of fresh blood when it comes to video games. You know what we get over and over and over and over again? Batman. Batman is constantly pushed in terms of video games, and I know a lot of people love him, especially on this channel, and I'm right there with you, but fresh blood would really do DC and superhero games some good. I personally am a little tired of the only superhero games that matter coming out being Batman and Spider-Man. That's it. Superman was tried to get pushed for a while, but it just never really went anywhere, with the closest to being something maybe being Superman Returns, and that was still a mess. And then WB kind of was apparently going to go in a direction of Superman. There's a lot of leaked concept art and other stuff, but it just never got off the ground. It never happened. So I really would love to see Static sort of step in and fill that role, that niche, so that we could see another character that people take a chance on that maybe opens up doors for new opportunities and new characters. I do think, too, that whenever I talk about these game ideas, right, for why it would be easy or hard to make, there's a subset of people on both sides. One, who are very overly defensive of game developers, who are adults and can take care of themselves, but who are very upset when anyone insinuates that this idea is good and that game developers could make it because there's so much to it, like coding and blah, blah, blah. Totally get it. This is conceptual level stuff. So if you don't enjoy that, That's okay. Not for you. Totally get it. And then there's the other side who is very upset when I say anything is hard to make because game developers are all lazy idiots who all should be able to do something better. And I don't really think it's one or the other. A lot of these decisions, they rest on the backs of corporate figureheads of suits, not the people developing the game. When it gets down to the nitty-gritty of it, I have complete faith that a competent team could design this very, very well. So I'm interested to hear what you think in the comments down below. Would you like to see a Static Shock game? Would you not like to see it? Do you even know who this character is? What superheroes do you think deserve a game? I've gone through a wide variety of characters on this channel, of characters who deserve to have a video game, who I think it would be easy, characters who deserve to have a video game that I think it would be difficult to make, but nothing is impossible. And it's worth remembering that. And years ago, people would not have expected to see something like Batman Arkham or even Marvel's Spider-Man. They just wouldn't have. So it's always possible. The sky is the limit when it comes to gaming. Interested to hear your thoughts. Be sure to check out the secondary channel Degenerate Plays in the links down below, where we play through a wide variety of games together with you, talking in the comments, hanging out, just bro to bro. You know, we're just broing it up, and I appreciate you very, very much. Subscribe for more content. Have a fantastic day. And as always, everyone, stay shway.